plenary speaker is Dr. Kalharie Pitigala. Dr. Kalharie Pitigala is senior lecturer and consultant psychologist. She has helped many people in overcoming their psychological issues, stress, anxieties, and OCDs, learning disorders. And she also conducts psychological related workshops and training programs in Sri Lanka and Maldives. Currently, she is attached to the RCD group of hospital as a consultant child consultant and counseling psychology. Her main research interests are in areas of development of disorders, pregnancy stress, abortions, sexual health, breast cancers, prison studies, domestic violence, and gender identity. So I would like to invite Dr. Kalharie Pitigala to deliver the speech titled Special Needs and Inclusive Education. Dr. Kalharie, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Ganesha, for that lovely introduction. Can you share the screen for me? Yeah, thank you. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation title is Special Needs and Inclusive Education. Can you move? Can you move to the next slide? Okay, special needs. So what are special needs? Special needs are the individual requirements of a child with a mental, emotional, or physical disability, or one who is at a high risk of developing one. A child is classified as having special educational needs if he or she has a learning problem or disability that makes it more difficult for them to learn than most of the other children of the same age. They may have problems with their schoolwork, their communication, their behavior, or the emotions. What are the factors that influence the special needs in children? So there are two factors, mainly the heredity factors and the environmental factors. So let's take one by one. Let's take one by one and elaborate. I will elaborate on them. Ganesha, you have to move back to the first slide. Yes, heredity factors. So these are the heredity factors within us. That is our genetic component. So if your ancestors, your great-grandparents or the grandparents have had a particular type of a disability, you're more likely to get it. So that is because of the biological pre-programming. And if you take the environmental factors, it's your nurture. In psychology, we call it the nature or the nurture effect. So if you take the nurture or the environmental factors, that is about the accidents, any such abusing that had taken place, drugs, the pattern of nutrition, or the people around you, people in your surrounding, will have an influence on your special needs, will have an effect or influence for you to become a child with special needs. Next slide, please. Okay. So this is from the Sri Lankan perspective. According to the Census of the Population and Housing in 2020, there are 88,740 mentally and physically handicapped children between the age of 5 and 19. Of which 62% are receiving education through mainstream schooling and 34% have not received any form of education at all. The rest of the 4% are taking educational through vocational means. Also, there are at present 104 national schools and 606 provincial council schools with special education units dedicated to identifying or providing assistance to students with special educational needs. But why? If there are 104 national schools and 606 provincial council schools with special education units, why is that 34% have not received any form of education? So it could be that most of these children do not have proper awareness. So we can't really blame the children. Here we can actually concentrate more on the parents. and special needs being a very tabooed or a stigmatized topic in Sri Lanka, many of our parents do not like to accept that our children have a disability. So chances are very less likely they would take any medical help or any alternative therapies in order to correct this particular problem. So lack of awareness would be the main reason that this condition is very much prevalent in Sri Lanka. However, not many researchers have been done in this particular area. I came across some quantitative studies, but very less qualitative studies. So I think this is a very good area. If any of your researchers want to go in depth and study as to why this is prevalent and what are the foremost predominant conditions that develop this void or the problem here in Sri Lanka. Next slide. Nature of special needs. A disability can be classified as a developmental condition, a learning condition, physical, or a sensory condition. So we'll take one by one. Developmental condition means an impairment of a child's cognitive functioning. So what's cognition? Cognition means the thinking capacity. So such children with a developmental problem would not have proper cognition, or probably they can't concentrate, or their attention span is limited and they can't concentrate for anything more than 10 minutes. For example, an autistic child will not be able to concentrate or use their cognition appropriately to carry out the certain tasks at hand. Then learning disability means reasoning and perceptual problems. For example, a math calculation. So if you're not able to reason out and arrive at a particular answer, that could be an example for a learning disability. So for example, dyscalculia. Some children will not be able to do a simple addition for the problem of not being able to reason out properly. Third one, physical disability. Physical disabilities include deformities. So we all know what it is. That is not having an arm or not having a leg or any sort of a physical disability that hinders us from taking the appropriate education. Sensory also we are pretty much, we know what it is. That is about hearing and vision problems. Means we can't, auditory we have a problem, audition is impaired, or it could be that we have visionary problems. We can't see. So here in Sri Lanka, we have schools like Braille School in Ratmalana for people with visionary problems. Another category of special needs is often referred to as gifted and talented. So when you say special needs, we usually think only about the disabled people. It actually, disabled is not a good word. We should refer to them as differently abled because they have a lot of talents themselves. So it's just that it's very stigmatized in our country. We don't really look into how creative they are and what we can yield out of them. So it's very important to intervene in this particular discipline and bring about the talents, the hidden talents of such people. So another category, as I mentioned, is the gifted and talented people. So when you say special needs, it's not only the disabled people, but even the people with giftedness. So that is more than average, or no, not more than average. You're really talented. You're extraordinary. Extraordinary is the word for that. You're gifted and you cannot get along with the normal bunch of students in a class, but you're gifted. So if you get a normal mathematics sum, you do it before anyone else and you don't have the patience to even wait. You feel you're super fast and you're super ahead of the others. Even in such a situation, you are categorized under special needs. Why? A normal classroom setting would not be appropriate for your intelligence. You need to be amidst a set of very gifted or talented kids. Otherwise, maybe when there is a lot more that you can do, you'll be still being stagnated at one point, learning what the others are learning. So that is also an area of concern. Next slide. you. Problems faced by them. So if you take the disabled kids, inferiority complex is a problem. They don't have any self-esteem, or rather we can say their self-esteem is pretty low. It's not that they don't have a self-esteem at all, but that is quite low. So they don't have the confidence to come in from the class and talk, or they feel they are less advantaged compared to others, underprivileged sort of thing. Then adjustment and behavioral issues. Yes. So if you take an ADHD child, that is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So that's a behavioral issue, even though it's classified in the DSM-5 as ASD, that is autism spectrum disorders. It has a behavioral component as well. So these children are very hyperactive, sometimes very impulsive, cannot get along with others. So in such a problem, they find it very difficult to sit with a normal group of children and carry on with their studies. Feeling of extra burden. Again, yes, when you are given too much work than what you can afford to do is another problem. So most of the time, some teachers who are not trained in this particular area will not understand that they are going through such a condition. So what will happen is the same level of expectation would be there from these children as well. Insecurity. Yes, so they'll feel very insecure if they are unable to perform well in the class, and they will also have the burden from their parents, teachers, and some parents would be like, you're not doing so well like your sibling, or you're not doing so well as your peers. So that would bring another big burden on them. So these are the areas that needs concern and more awareness. Lack of expression or introverts. Introverts are this is the opposite of extrovert. Extrovert is a very outgoing person. Introvert means the opposite of outgoing. You're rather just staying in one place. You don't want to communicate. Your social life is very poor. That sort of person. So if you have such conditions, learning conditions, you're more likely to just become an introvert and not share about your details, who you are, and to socialize amongst others, thinking that you are behind them. Lack of understanding is another factor, especially when it comes to developmental disabilities. So the cognition is impaired, so their understanding is poor. Poor concentration. Most of the time, when there is an attention deficiency, a person or a child could be able to concentrate maximum 10 minutes at a stretch. Slow and lack of enthusiasm. So most of the time, most of these special need kids have a very low enthusiasm. They are not very much interested in their studies. It could be the fact that they be misunderstood by the others. They are not given reinforcement. So it's important that the teachers or whoever who are guiding them, their guiders, their mentors, their teachers, and the parents should learn how they must intervene and help themselves develop their skills. For example, reinforcement or parent conditioning is an important thing here. For example, if a child is doing well, or at least progressing or making an attempt to learn, you can apparently condition them by giving them a chocolate or a red star, or rewards of a token of economy, we call it in psychology, rewards, in order to help them condition their positive behavior. Next slide. Education for children with special needs. Yes. Now, education for special needs comes under three categories. That is inclusive education, special education, and integrated education. Now, I'll give a brief understanding to each one of these so you can select what is the best form of education for the special needs. Inclusive means providing education to differently able students along with normal students, and providing facilities and normal atmosphere as given to the normal students. So there is no segregation at all. Both the special needs students as well as the normal students will be in one classroom. Number two is special education. That means providing education for differently able students in an exclusive manner. So they'll be separated from the normal students. They will have separate schools. So they will not be going to normal schools, but they will have separate education and special curriculums for their education. Number 3 is the integrated education. It is a system of providing formal education for differently able students in the mainstream institutions, but in separate classrooms exclusively formed only for differently able children. Yeah, so that is integrated means they are in the mainstream educational institutions. However, in the school, they have different specific classrooms so that they don't mingle with the normal students. When it comes to different subjects, they will be put into different classrooms. That is called integrated education. So there will be pros and cons of each education system, which we will elaborate a little further. Yes, next slide. Yes, here we are going to look at the differences between inclusive, integrated, and special education. So I will take, I'm not going to take one by one, but I'll take the most important one. For example, in inclusive education, you get equal opportunities to the special need kids as well, similar to the normal student, and equal opportunities and participation. Whereas in integration also partial opportunities for participation, because in the school you will have a specialized classroom for such kids. So suppose for the sports meet, there will be partial opportunities. So probably there are specialized events for those who are disabled or so on. Then special education limits opportunities for participation. So in a special educational school, there will be opportunities only that could be done with the special educational kids. Subject-centered curriculum and methodology in inclusive education. Subject-centered constructivist curriculum and methodology in integrated education, and special curriculum and methodology in special education. So when it comes to the curriculum, when you are in an inclusive setting, you don't feel bad that you are special, because you are amidst the other normal kids as well. So sometimes you can get the help from them as well. Probably you can sit next to, you can get your special needs kid to sit next to a highly talented kid. So there can be a chance that the child who is very good in the studies may help the child with special needs. But also on the other hand, there can be a possibility that when you are amidst a bunch of normal kids, your special needs child may feel emotionally tormented, that they might feel that they are not good enough compared to the others. So that is a disadvantage of being together. Most cost effective is inclusive, because in special education there is a high cost. Most of the time you need very special automated systems and special gadgets to improve their education system. And specifically when it comes to Sri Lanka, our infrastructure is not very developed when it comes to the rural areas. But most of the Colombo-centered private schools and international schools have the proper infrastructure and the technology needed to carry out the special education systems. And for inclusive education, formal planning is required, and for integrated, no formal planning. And for special education, plan according to the student's ability. I will take one more. All the students away from education are included in mainstream schools when it comes to inclusive education. When it comes to integrated education, all the students away from education are not necessarily included in mainstream schools. And when it comes to special education, it can be included in mainstream education with some special facilities. However, this may differ from country to country. Here in Sri Lanka, what we practice most is the inclusive education, but nowadays there are some special education schools as well. Next. Benefits of inclusive education. It promotes independence and confidence. Yeah, when your special needs kid is amidst a set of normal kids, they may find independence and also more confidence. But again, it is skeptical. It is controversial. One could even argue the other way around, because the confidence may even go down when you are amidst a set of very smart kids thinking that you can't do up to their standards. But however, at a larger scale, we could say that the independence and the confidence could be improved, because they would not feel so bad as if they would feel when they are in a specially as if they would feel if they are in a special needs school. Because if anyone asks where they are studying, they can jolly well say that they're studying at this particular school, which is an ordinary, which is a ordinary college, or a college meant for normal studying. Whereas if somebody asks where they studied, and if they are studying in a special school, they might feel a little bad about themselves to say that they are studying in a school as such. Enhances learning and expression of ideas. That is also a benefit of inclusive education, because a lot of group working and paired working is done so that exchange of ideas would enhance the learning. Then protection of rights is there, and also improves the writing fluency. For example, if you take a kid with a learning disability like dysgraphia. Dysgraphia means inability to write, or very poor writing, or very slow in writing. So if you are amidst a set of normal kids, normal bunch of people, then when the teacher gives something to copyright, you're supposed to finish it along with the other kids. You don't have extra time. So that could improve your writing speed. Promotes healthy lifestyles and life skills. Helps to overcome the inferiority complex. When you're with others, you can make new friends, and your social relationships may improve in inclusive education. And also it provides the opportunity to involve in all activities like a normal child. Next. Yes. So this is a picture. This depicts about working together, strong with the strong, weak with the weak, or the strong with the weak. Different pairings could be tried, and group work could be tried, so that it helps synergy. One whole is greater than sum of its components. Whole class mingles. It's a favored strategy. Involves students interacting with many different members, and this strategy supports the weaker students also to participate in discussions. Next one. Development initiatives for inclusive education. Yes, positive attitude towards inclusive education. So like I said before, this is an area which is quite stigmatized. So even the parents do not like to accept that if their child is going through such a condition. So positive attitude, unconditional positive regard is extremely important. So that is when everyone can collaborate together, the teachers, parents, could work together in this. And also intersectoral collaboration, governmental support, international collaboration is also important when it comes to developing initiatives in this area. Creating awareness could be done through social media, newspaper articles, so on and so forth. Knowledge about the benefits of inclusive education should be shared through such platforms. Then research conferences like this would also be helpful. Then interest and enthusiasm, support of the mass media, parental support, training workshops. Pre-service and in-service training for the teachers is very important, because there are novel technologies coming in every day. So teachers should be familiar with these technologies and the strategies in order to improve the children's learning capacities when it comes to inclusive education. Yes, and also developing inclusive educational policies is also important, and it should be publicized, and a lot of awareness should be given in this regard. Next slide, please. Barriers in inclusive education. So when it comes to the barriers, lack of infrastructure. Yes, we are still a developing country, so we still lack infrastructure, especially when it comes to rural areas. Sometimes we have problems in the Wi-Fi, and some people can't afford smartphones or technological tech-savvy equipments. Some schools do not have them, so this is an area that needs attention. Negative approach is another thing. So here in Sri Lanka, if a child is disabled, parents just leave it at that most of the time. From the research and the focus group discussions and the key informants that I have spoken to, I was able to realize that the approach is very negative. People don't try to help them climb up the ladder. So it's important to see and find out what skills they have, what creativities they have, and help them climb up the ladder in those areas. Lack of funds is the foremost thing, and also social discriminations up to some extent could be there, and inappropriate curriculum. Yes, in inclusive education, when both the normal kids and the differently able kids are studying together, the curriculum inappropriateness could occur, because the same sort of curriculum is shared. That is where the integrated education is important. So in the same school, there would be a different approach or a different curriculum for the students with different special needs. Next slide. Yeah. So this is my last slide, and here I have mentioned some suggestions so that we can improve our special needs education in Sri Lanka. So we need a lot of social advocacy campaigns, and that is to give awareness. It's good if we can have many schools that would start the integrated education system or the inclusive education system, or who will try to share the importance of integrated or the inclusive education system along with the children, so that everyone will feel at ease and everyone will be accepted, and even the differently able kids would feel really good about themselves. So that is extremely important. Services from a counselor and psychologist is very important, and most of the time I think this is available only in the private sector schools and the international schools. But this is an area to think about, because psychological support is very important when it comes to special needs. Special kids would have emotional needs and might not be able to understand by the same age peers or the others. So it's important if they can talk to a counselor or a psychologist in their school setting. There should be modified textbooks, that is with assistive devices such as large print books or braille textbooks and audio books. So if you can't read and if you have a visionary impairment, you can audio listen to it. So these are some new technologies. Alternative evaluation systems should be there when it comes to O levels and A levels, even higher education, higher grades even. You can have alternative evaluation systems so that these people also will be encouraged to sit for their GCE, O levels and A levels. Already there exist some evaluation systems, but the awareness is not very high and people still don't have much idea of what these evaluation systems are. So that awareness is important. Alternative subject choices are important, because something like pottery or something like carpentry would be good for a child with special needs. So if these things are also taught and if these are also part of the curriculum, or if they can choose these subjects as well for their higher education, or probably for O-levels or A-levels even in Sri Lanka, I think even these children would do well in their studies, or they will also feel so good about themselves, so that they could study, or they can also have a objective towards their future. Occupational therapy, that is while studying to engage along with their interest some sort of a therapy. So we have special occupational therapists, but especially these therapists are employed in mental asylums and mental institutions in Sri Lankan context. But it's good to employ such people in schools as well, so that different people will be able to, differently abled children will be able to meet their occupational therapists, and they'll be better able to understand their needs and means and help them accordingly. Physiotherapy, that is for the disabled kids, rather than you having a physiotherapist in the hospital, it's good, I think, to have the physiotherapist in a school as well, so that while studying, maybe if there could be a particular period where you get the physiotherapy as well, the disabled student may not feel it as an external thing, or they might not feel underprivileged or something like that. When physiotherapy is part of the program, everyone will have to go to that class and attend to that. Even the normal kids may learn what physiotherapy is and might get a chance to experience some of these exercises. Yoga and mindfulness, again, the last one that I have said, yoga and mindfulness have according to the research, have been really helpful in getting over most of the developmental problems, especially when it comes to the cognition. The attention span has been developed. So it's important to give awareness when it comes to yoga and mindfulness as well. So if our educational streams could employ these strategies, it would really benefit our children. Last but not least, I will also mention about positive affirmations. So it's very important that even the differently able students or the children feel accepted in the society. So always encourage them, or let the teachers know that it's important for them, these children, to know how important it is to be a human being. So having said that, it's important for teachers to remind them, or give them a positive affirmation for life every day, so they don't feel depressed about their condition. But with that positive affirmation, they'll have more courage to face the world, and they will have more future accomplishments. They will also have a strategy in life. So it's important to have positive affirmations like, I'm a victory and not a victim. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, you may ask now.
Audience, you can ask questions if you want to clarify anything from Dr. Kalharie.
Yes, thank you. I'm John from Indonesia. Can I host my question?
Yes, you can ask.
Yes. I was just wondering, as a practicing psychologist on child, adolescent, and counseling, is there any program that you devise on how to cope with the situation of pandemic, where children still need their psychological assessment, or where they are experiencing this? Is there any method that you can explain, or probably you could suggest on like online, how do you say it, online consultation, something like that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. So yeah, pandemic time was quite difficult to all of us, not only for the adults, but also the children. I'm sure the children went through a very tough time, and especially the pandemic caused a lot of frustration in children. And I would say it's important to bring color to their life. So this is something that I advise most of my patients to do. Parents can participate along with the kids, even during play therapy or playing together, cooking together, making cupcakes together, and bake the cupcakes and color them in different colors, so that they can see the color. And color is something that could reduce the frustration or the depressive feelings. So that is an important thing. So or bake cookies and color them, icing them in different colors. So color will reduce the depression. Also, you can do things like art therapy, mandala drawing along with the kids. You can sit with the kids and play. Also, meditation is a good technique, but we can't expect the kids to sit and meditate. So what we can do is things like you can get a bubble blower. You know what I mean? You get a bubble blower and blow the bubbles out, and get the kids to blow it out, cut off the bubble, so that automatically that breathing technique or the mindfulness breathing regulations would occur in them. So that is another thing. Always get yourself involved with the kids. Don't isolate them, because they also have their emotional needs, and they would love to be heard by the adults. So even if you have a problem, you can always talk to them and share it with it. Don't think you're an adult and you need not share it with the kid. In a way that the child can understand, you can share it with the child. Or if you're going through a problem because of the pandemic, I'm sure sometimes you have to do most of the work online, and a lot of other problems at home. So it's likely that you could even get angry emotions. So don't show your anger to your kids, because children get impulsive, and they respond to anger in a tit-to-tat behavior, which is not good. So rather than saying that you are angry, or rather than showing your anger towards them, you can say that you're sad because of the pandemic. You are sad and you're going through a tough time. Children would react to that in a positive way than reacting to your anger. So those are some of the techniques that you can do. Also, one more thing, water therapy is also very important. Water is something that children like. So with water, you can do many things. Maybe you can put some water in a bowl, and you can make boats, and you can sail it. Always try to get involved, and all this depend on the age of your child. So I'm giving you several tips. So depending on the age of the child, you can see what method you are going to utilize. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
And Dr. Kalharie, there is another 2 questions in the chat box. Miss Natasha Kodituaku is asking, what are the benefits and the values of the concept?
What are the beliefs and values of this?
What are the beliefs and values of the concept?
Concept means the inclusive education. Natasha, if you can elaborate a little bit more on your question, it'll be more easy for me to answer. Yes. So when it comes to the inclusive education, like I said, the beliefs and values, yes. I don't know what sort of beliefs that Sri Lankans do have on it. As I said before, the awareness is not that vast, but I'm sure the parents who have special need kids would definitely like it, like this concept, because their children will be accepted same as the other normal kids, and that will be a great benefit for them. Values, so when it comes to values, so children will be respected same as the normal kids, and also they will get to learn a lot of values, how to respect others, socially accepted values and beliefs, and what is how to talk to a teacher, or depending on the beliefs that a particular country is following. I think inclusive education would be very beneficial for children to learn many things, uh, which goes hand in hand with the social norms of the country. Did I answer your question, Natasha, or do you need more explanation to that? Yes, okay, yes, clear. Thank you. And the other question is, how can we identify normal children with special needs, like no learning difficulties, but having family issues like separate parents likewise? How can we assist them? Yeah, definitely. So first, you're asking how to identify such children. So if they display any difficulties probably to concentrate in their work, or if the attention span is poor, or if they find it difficult to make social relationship with others, in conditions as such, you'll be told about all this by a immediate teacher, or a member, a family member, or a friend. You'll get to know what your child is going through. Depending on that, you can take to a psychologist and do a particular assessment and see whether the child is going through a form of learning disability or a developmental disability. That is one way. But suppose the problem is such that the child is affected because of family issues, like separated parents, it could be an emotional issue as well. So if it's an emotional issue, I recommend psychological counseling, or even a parent can intervene and solve the problem at a family level. But if more help is required, you can take for counseling, and so on. uh, if the child with the emotional issues also come across any educational needs like learning disabilities due to the emotional problem, it's likely that the child can come across special needs such as learning disabilities. For example, if the child is going through emotional problems, it's likely that the attention span will get limited. As a matter of fact, he or she may not remember the reasoning skills in mathematics, and later end up having dyscalculia, probably because of the disinterest which has caused the problem. So the root cause is the disinterest which has occurred as a result of the emotional problems. So in a condition like that also, it's very important that you look for medical support and psychological support.
TIIKM, the International Institute of Knowledge Management.